Surrender your secrets. My wife would have known what to do or say. She was always the more emotionally available parent. She would have probably known not to enter a teenager's room without knocking, lest you be found in an awkward position like this. For my 17-year-old son was kissing another teenage boy and I did not know what to say. When he saw me, his eyes widened and his face paled as he started to explain. It saddened me that he thought he had to fear me because of who he loved. I think his mother knew and did not tell me. There were so many things we never told each other for people who had been married for over 20 years. I did not know he had someone over, I said. Hi Dad, sorry for not telling you. He looked down. I could see that he was uncomfortable and sweaty. The boy who had been hanging out with them for the past few weeks started to scramble off the bed. I wanted to ask him not to leave on my account, as would have been polite to say, but I was not Lucille. No one would ever be. So, I let him leave and I remained with my son. Dad, I know this is probably not who you wanted for me, but I like him, he said. No, I understand. I'm not judging you. I just wish you had told me sooner. As long as you're happy, tell me more about him, I said. You really want to know? Well, he makes me happy. He's super smart and I want to hang out with him all the time. He started bumbling away. I have been so absent from my children's lives that I had missed out on who they were dating. Guilt and grief could not do that to a person. I just told him to always inform me when he visited Vincent, who was his boyfriend. Young love was beautiful to see. It seemed to crackle with sparks. I wish I had gotten that. Not that the security Lucille afforded me was something I would undermine, for it was the only love I knew. That afternoon, my oldest daughter Tia came to visit, but I think she came to babysit me. But I was trying so hard to be a better dad, and not to remain lost in my world every day. She excitedly told me about the project that she was working on at work, and how it would probably allow her to travel overseas. You and Mom met while traveling, right? She asked. Yes. Do you think you will finally meet someone and settle down? I asked. I am too young for that. How do you know you have met the one, Dad? She asked. My answer should have been that I would not know because I never did. But I would never disappoint Tia by telling her how my marriage had been a lie that had driven me to the bottle and her mom to pills. Sometimes it was easier to spare fragile hearts. You will just know. As lame as it sounded, I wanted to believe it. After Will and Vincent had been dating for a while, Will told me that they were getting more serious and wanted to meet each other's family. Well, I already met him, remember? I raised my eyebrows. Dad, why do you have to be so awkward? My son blushed. I ruffled his hair and asked him to continue speaking. I wanted to ask if he would go to dinner at his house. He asked. Anything for you? I smiled. I honestly thought I would have to ask Tia. You have not gone out anywhere except to work in months. He laughed, but I could see that he was excited. I liked Vince. He was a very well-mannered guy who made my son happy. It was the happiest he was after his mom passed away 2 years ago. The first time I met Terrence, I was taken aback by how much he seemed to radiate life. He was busy in the kitchen when we arrived, and his son apologized because his dad took forever to cook. Dad, this is Will's dad, Vincent introduced us. Call me Brian. It is nice to meet you, Mr. Adams. I shook his hand and we exchanged a fleeting smile, but it was stuck in my head. There was a familiarity that I could not help but feel with the man who asked me to call him just Terry. We clicked during dinner and ended up in the living room while the kids went off. I was surprised to find out he had been a single parent for over a year, but he was handling it so well. He disclosed to me that his wife cheated on him with their personal trainer. Mine passed away, I said. I'm so sorry to hear. How are you holding up with the grief? I barely leave the house. Will told me, would you ever consider joining me for daily runs? I'm trying to get back into shape, and I know working out keeps your mind off things, he suggested. Sure, let me give you my number, I said, and thus a connection was formed. Terry became my best friend from that day. We spent the night comparing parenting notes and talking about our childhoods. Having a best friend when you are older is much different from when you are younger, but it is still just as special. Whenever I would have free time, I would go over to his place, drink a few beers with him, watch a game, or even play board games. That feeling of knowing him increased as we got to know each other. It was eerie, but it kept me coming back for more. It also awakened something I thought had died when I was a teenager. the ability to feel excited in someone's company. Despite how close we had gotten, especially on drunken nights after going out for dinner together, because we joked that we would never get into clubs, I had not told him the truth about Lucille. Those certain things fleeted through my mind when I was lying awake, thinking of it, and I would quickly banish them away, only to be assaulted with my guilt for thinking another man while my wife had just passed away. The kids loved that we were good friends because that meant they could hang out for much longer. There came a particular night when I was helping him fix some cupboards that had become loose in his house. He suddenly removed his shirt, revealing a toned physique, and I could not help staring. Emotions were awoken within me as our eyes locked and we looked away. It went deeper than just physical attraction. I was emotionally attached to him. We shared our fears that we would never admit in front of anyone, and I had shared my guilt over Lucille's passing. "So you were that unhappy with her?" he asked. "She was unhappy with me. I mean, I tried to be a good husband. We loved our kids and that was enough for us to love each other. But the love felt like a must if I am making any sense." I told him later that night while we were sitting on the kitchen floor, tools scattered all around us. "Tell me, Brian, why did you not leave each other?" he asked. I asked many times, but then she would get this far away look in her eyes, and then she would take her pills, the ones that killed her in the end, I confessed. "Did she leave a note?" He touched my hand. That touch gave me solace, and for a while, and the pain subsided. "Yes, she said it was not my fault. She was just always filled with lugubriousness," I said. "I'm afraid I have no idea what that means," he chuckled. Deep sadness. The definition of the word was ingrained in my mind. He pulled me closer to him and just held me for a while. I searched deep within me, and I could feel that I was not as sad as I always was. When with him, I could feel myself being drawn into the light and how I wanted to follow. I turned to face him, then brought his lips to mine, and did what I had been wanting to since the first time we locked eyes. When we backed away from the kiss, both everything and nothing had changed. "I am a grown man. I do not have much time, so I'm going to ask you, do you have feelings for me?" he whispered. Yes, I told the truth for once. Like me, he had been stuck in a loveless marriage, for he wanted to conceal who he truly was. I suspected it when I saw him, for I recognized the same look in my eyes. We started to see each other, but secretly, as we did not know how to tell the boys. We both agreed that they would most likely freak out, and we did not want it to ruin their relationship. I do not think I had any idea how fast I would fall for him as time passed. I felt new sensations in both my body and my heart that led me into wanting more of him. We booked a hotel out of town nearly every week because we did not want to risk the children finding out. But my son did notice my glow and accused me of dating. "What? You are seeing things," I said when he caught me off guard by asking me who I was seeing. "Dad, we saw you sneaking out of your room, and you called yourself an adult." Tia raised an eyebrow. "I'm not seeing anyone," I laughed. "Whatever. I want to go and see Vince. He said something about his dad not being home today," he said. I hid a smile by looking into my food and only looked up when I heard his footsteps retreating. "Dad, spill," Tia said. "What are you talking about?" I sighed. My phone vibrated with a text from Terry. "Terry, ready for a little rendezvous? Tell me when Tia leaves." I did not get the chance to finish reading, however, because she snatched my phone away from me. She raised her eyebrows and then put down the phone. "You and Vincent's dad? Please do not lie. I saw the way you were so close, but I thought it was a bromance." "I'm sorry," I started. "Do not be. I'm just glad that he makes you happy," she smiled. "I loved your mother," I started. "I am not a child. I know how unhappy you were with her. You remember that thing about knowing when someone is in love? I see it with you and Terry," she grinned. Things might have been complicated with Lucille, but she had given me the best daughter in the world. Her words gave me the courage to do what I had been sure of for a few months now. I did not want to sneak around with Terry anymore. I wanted us to be in love and for our sons to accept it. I also wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. That afternoon when he came over to the house, I asked him if he wanted to get married. So, I did not deserve props for being romantic. That was more his style. But the way his eyes filled with elation, I might as well have proposed in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yes! He kissed me passionately and we stayed in my bed for the rest of the afternoon. I could already see our life together, but we had to get past our sons. So, a few days after we had become engaged, we prepared a family dinner where we would tell everyone that we wanted to get married. Will and Vince, we want to tell you something. I started. Are you two going to apply to be on a game show together? Will laughed. Because you were inseparable, Vince finished. Yeah, they were at that stage of finishing each other's sentences now. We are getting married, Terry said. What? That is wonderful, Tia beamed. Our sons, on the other hand, were staring at us with stone-cold expressions on their faces. And then Will got up and left. Vincent took a more direct approach and started shouting at us. First of all, when did this event start? Tell me it's April Fool's Day. Why did you not tell us that you were in love? And you are our dads. Will and I are dating, he screamed. Vince, I started. No, please don't. What are you two doing to us? Do you realize that we're going to be a family? He continued. His dad tried to talk him down, but he got so mad that he broke a glass. I remembered Will, then I ran after him. I found him on the front lawn, cursing. You know how I feel about swearing, Will, I started. Well, I don't give a fuck, Dad. He started walking off. Will, stop it. I tried to go after him, but he started to run, and I could not catch up to him. The bottom line was that our sons felt betrayed by us. Will was especially upset because he felt like I was betraying his mom. I knew that the situation was not ideal, but could they not understand that we wanted to be happy? We grew up in a time when we were not allowed to be openly in love with the same gender. They were lucky that they could be together and were acting very childish. For weeks, our kids did not talk to us. Vincent went to stay with his mom, and Will was his aunt, my sister Rosemary. Rosemary knew my secret, but she kept it for all those years. She kept me up to date on how Will was doing. Tia was a breath of fresh air and supported us. She admitted that it took some getting used to, but she felt like we were good for each other. But that did not stop us from breaking up after it seemed like our sons would not understand. It wasn't fair that they could love, and we could not. When we broke up, I sent Will a message. Will, I love you enough to give him up. Please come home. He did not reply. Tia thought I was making a big mistake. Look, they are acting like brats right now. You are happy for once in your life and you want to give it up for someone? Not just someone, my son. You will understand one day if you decide to have kids. Okay, this is nonsense. I can't. She stormed off. I called after her, but within a few seconds, I heard her car driving off. I went back to bed and tried to keep the memories of Terry from my head. I was truly heartbroken, but I had to give him up. I told myself that it was better to have loved than lost, but it did not make me feel better. I read through all our text messages and flipped through our pictures. The joy I felt physically hurt me, and I started crying like I had been doing every night that week. The next day, Tia woke me up and demanded that I take a bath and come with her. I'm not in the mood to be social, I groaned. I feel like I'm the parent. Oh, stop moping around. I need you to come see something. It is important, she said. I thought it was her work project, so I got up and bathed. Then she started driving me to an unfamiliar place with a blindfold on. I wondered what she was up to. When I opened my eyes at our destination, I saw Vincent, and he handed me something. I checked inside and it was a suit. I started to speak, but he shushed me and told me to get dressed. And that was how our kids planned our wedding. It was in the outdoors, in a beautiful garden, with just a few people present, but it made me cry nonetheless. My heart swelled to the point of exploding when I saw Terry waiting for me at the end of the aisle. We said our vows and tied the knot in front of our loved ones, and each person looked genuinely happy for us. I was very confused as to how Will and Vincent were so supportive, when just a few days ago, they condemned our relationship. Well, Tia knocked some sense into us, Vince said. Literally, Will added. I did not resort to violence, just reminded them that you cannot stand in the way of true love. She grinned. What are we going to do without you? Terry said. She was leaving in just a few days. Just promise to enjoy your honeymoon and I will be happy. A bit later, our sons asked to talk to us. "We are sorry," they said. "Do not worry about it. Thank you for organizing everything," Terry said as we brought them in for a group hug. So we were not a conventional family. We had our arguments and silly moments, but one thing that was established from that day was that we would always have each other's back. Will and Vince loved each other, so did Terry and I, and we learned how to navigate that, like a true family. I could not have been luckier. I bet you did not expect things to take such a turn, but when has love ever been predictable? Please support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Stay wholesome. Summary. When Brian finds his son kissing another boy, he is taken aback, but he accepts Will and his boyfriend Vince, who are truly in love. It is the first time his son is happy after his mother passed away 2 years ago. Brian is still grieving and is haunted by how unhappy his marriage was until he meets Terrence, Vince's father. Terrence is an adventurous man who recently divorced his cheating wife. He forms a friendship with Brian, but it turns into something more. Like many gay people in the past, they had to suppress who they were and get married to women. But when they started dating, they find out the meaning of true love. They decided to get married, but their sons cannot accept it. They feel it is unfair that they should hide who they are so their sons can be happy. But in the end, Tia, Brian's oldest daughter, talks some sense into them. They end up getting married in a beautiful ceremony with their son's support. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.